Welcome back, everybody. I've got massive news. It is a day that ends with Y, and that means that people are mad about Overwatch 2 again, which actually is worth talking about. There's quite a few things going on. I mean, number one, Overwatch League teams are now, seeking a pretty high-profile law firm in order to try to settle some of their grievances with Activision Blizzard. So I think that is actually a fairly major story, because a lot of the economics that are underpinning the Overwatch League and all those segments of esports, maybe as time goes on, we're realizing some of these numbers were in documents, but not reality. And then the problems of what happens when you've got a good game but a bad product. Well, to dive into it, there was the Battle for Olympus event. That was a step forward. It was relatively uneventful, but hey, fair enough.
No news is good news.
What has happened, though, is the Lunar New Year event in Overwatch, and right now fans are not impressed. Now, this is really something that speaks to a wider issue than just a single event. I think that's the thing to really keep front of mind in this one. It's not just, it's a bunch of piss babies being angry over not getting a free thing in a game. No, it's not that. It's overall concerns and whether they are being listened to and met. So, mechanically, much like, I suppose, the Halloween event, mechanically there are good things. They're bringing back to the arcade rotation 2 versions of Capture the Flag, as well as adding it back to Ranked, as well as the Bounty Hunter mode. So, yeah, you do have some gameplay to do.
That is solidly just thumbs up in terms of gameplay,
yeah.
But that, as we'll find with Overwatch 2 in general, that's not where people take issue at all.
It is, of course, the rewards, and you may think, well, why are people just playing a game for the rewards instead of playing it for the sake of the game itself?
Well,
and we agree with you, totally. Yeah. But the thing is, it is Blizzard themselves that fostered this very extrinsically motivated way to play Overwatch. Overwatch 1 was designed to be a pretty damn rewarding game. People got used to getting lots of skins. That's a part of how they learned to enjoy Overwatch. So you give them more Overwatch, maybe even better Overwatch, but if you change the thing that they learned to enjoy, you're going to have issues. So what are then the things that every player will be getting? Well, everybody, if you're doing the challenges just for playing the game, you'll get the Lucky Pouch Weapon Charm, the catchy Echo skin, which came out Lunar New Year 2021, so it is an old skin. You'll get the Year of the Rabbit spray, game changer, the Year of the Rabbit name card, game changer, and the Hongbao souvenir, and also a few instances of 1,000 Battle Pass XP, which is kind of nice. But of course, Twitch.television. Because if you watch 2 hours of Twitch streams, you will get the Lion Roars victory pose for Moira. And if you watch for 4 hours, you will get the Masked Dancer legendary skin for Moira that was introduced in the 2020 Lunar New Year. So overall, I just think it's weird that, for what some people want, it's just go watch Twitch. It feels to me, whenever they have to resort to what I will call inorganic engagement, that to me is like an indicator that, number one, the marketing team are just trying hard to do their best to generate those numbers, but that maybe this is not a good indicator.
Yeah, it's the same thing we looked at with Dragonflight's launch of World of Warcraft, and you see, they've really ramped up Twitch engagement, but numbers aren't quite as high, and they've not reported sales being anywhere near as well. So it seems like an initiative they're going across to try and get that inorganic engagement, because I guess having stories about numbers is more important than having organically people watching and enjoying the game. I think that's one of the holes that Activision Blizzard in general have dug themselves into pretty heavily. And it's the same hole they've dug themselves into with the, it's like you're playing Overwatch and not getting skins. That's like playing Diablo and not getting loot to a lot of people. I think that's an analogy that will make sense. It's just...
Yeah, it's like even though the skins don't come with better numbers, it's like, no, that's the reason why they are doing this loop of gameplay. Yeah. It's to get the thing.
It's the dopamine hit that you're there for. Obviously, there's plenty of that in the game itself, because it is a reasonably good game by all accounts. It's just that was the extra little bit of frosting on top.
Now, of course,
the frosting's not coming.
There's Swipe-A-Mine, because you can swipe your credit card to get a number of paid elements. Do you want to get the Epic May skin? If you do, well, you can buy it. And it's newly introduced this year. But as we're soon going to see, people don't particularly like it for, reasons. Also, several older Lunar New Year skins, all previously available in the associated loot boxes from Overwatch 1. Those are, of course, just chilling out in the store. So, yeah. Now, that being said, we are recording this before next Tuesday. So, it is possible that there are more skins that will rotate in but if they are there, then Blizzard have not shown them off in the press for this event. So that essentially is a bunch of our situation. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to say The Pale Beyond, the video game that our team is developing, we finally got a release date. It is the 24th of February. I can tell you that since we've announced the release date, we've got like, just shy of like 2,000 wish lists. The trailer, the new trailer that we did has got the same amount of views in like one day than the previous one did in over a year. Overall, we got good buzz, got on Rock, Paper, Shotgun, Destructoid, and actually two fairly decently sized Japanese outlets, which is awesome. So check out The Pale Beyond on Steam, wish list it if you'd like to help us out, and on the 24th of February, you'll be able to purchase it. And with the self-promo done, so let's talk about people not really feeling great. So number one, name cards, poses, etc. just don't have the same impact as skins. So from the perspective of a lot of players, the event is just giving you one new skin and two old skins. Now those old skins, original Overwatch players are probably going to have. Right? So to them, that's actually going to feel kind of bad because Overwatch 2 just represents them getting less, which is never what you want your supposed sequel to be.
I would almost suggest that suggesting to the original Overwatch players, hey, you can get this thing that you already probably have, is probably worse feeling to them than if they got nothing, because they're just saying, oh yeah, this isn't for you, sorry, you're the loyal players. Nah, this is for people who caught up. We don't really value that much. There's a lot of those little things that might be ticking along in like players' heads going, I feel undervalued as a long-term player. That's just not okay.
Yeah, and like even to kick some of the Reddit comments, like kind of crazy the new legacy events or the legacy events are completely pointless and worthless. Yeah, I used to get so pumped for these, and whenever I was playing Overwatch, I'd get excited for them. My friends would get excited for them, but now because you do not have the prospect of getting the new thing without paying, the excitement is just gone, right? They've broken that link. But also when we talk about the new skin, well, people are very quick to point out that it's basically just a recolor of Overwatch 1 May with a new hat that's got ears. Mm-hmm. So it's a very middling skin. Now, this would be a relatively small detail in the grander scheme of things in any other year, but because this is the only new skin that it feels to people to be, you could say, half-assed. I'm not saying it is half-assed, but it feels that way to the audience. That also does not feel great. It's like, hey, new event, there's only, this is the only new skin. Skins are the thing you care about, and you can't get it by playing, and also, it's not that good.
Yeah, combine that with people complaining about it being Year of the Rabbit and that being perfectly a match for D.Va in every capacity, you can tell that clearly this wasn't a decision that had a lot of, let's say, brain power behind it. This is likely something done quickly. This is likely something just kind of blasted out instead of someone going, because in a substantially better game with events, you would imagine them sit down and go, okay, well, how do we do this right by our players? Okay, we'll have a free D.Va skin that really leans into the aesthetic of Year of the Rabbit. It really leans into everything and maybe doubles down, because I think they haven't even done anything that like really does that, even though it's so like core to her design. But then another thing that I think is interesting, in the original Overwatch, if they were like, hey, get some loot boxes and buy the skin, you'd probably be okay. But now you're getting paid stuff coming in as a part of, well, people are already paying for the battle pass, I imagine, at least VR. So it's that fun thing of, it feels like extra monetization on top of extra monetization that's already there, whereas everything before fit nicely into the loot box model. So it didn't feel like they were throwing extra stuff into the pile. It was just, oh, we're adding more things to the store. This feels like they're adding another layer of store on top to the overall experience of people trying to play. I guess the rationalization then is there's no buy-in for Overwatch 2 because it's free to play, so they can do this more, and that's sort of fair. But also just feels like I imagine people are going, well, I feel like I have to pay more overall, which obviously that's the
whole point.
Yeah, that's the point. But the people will start to twig onto that feeling and go, why?
I have to wonder if there's a degree of fatigue for this sort of business model, and
has to be.
Yeah. I mean,
people don't have so much money.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is a bit rough because even in comparison to the Olympus event, this is a downgrade, which is unfortunate because at least when we saw the Olympus event, like there was a positive trajectory. That's now, not really continued. And then people can compare this to previous times. Now, remember, this is back when Overwatch was monetized by just buying the game. And yes, the evilness of loot boxes. But at least a lot of people, they were getting those loot boxes for free while they were playing matches, and then they had weekly challenges to unlock new skins. So, you can see for all of these different years, all the content that players are getting, I suppose much of which is now just relegated to the store, Whereas this time round, it's just, hey, bunch of tiny things and a overall fairly shitty May. Do you want to hear only available via $20 or some bundle you don't care about? No, that's not what you want the community to be memeing about, but it is what they are memeing about. And when we actually go and compare, 2017 had 13 new skins, 2018 had 6 new skins and a new map, 2019, 8 new skins, 2020, even when the game feels totally like maintenance mode in 2020 and 2021, there were 7 new skins and 8 new skins. This time around, there's 1 new skin, 2 old ones for free, and the ability to buy a bunch of the old skins that previously you could unlock for free via gameplay. So, downgrade, right? It just is going to feel like a downgrade. And then that kind of brings us to the sort of the pipeline issue here. When the Winter Wonderland event in Season 2 was announced, the lack of new content was treated as a bit of a potential problem, right? And once again, that's an issue of like, you know, the thematically like apt Overwatch 1 content just being kind of repurposed. So the repurposing then feels like not particularly good. The new content relegated to the store doesn't feel good, which does mean then that it just feels like Overwatch should have way more content available rather than them seeming to just reuse the old content as like a band-aid to just not having stuff. Now, Battle for Olympus, yes, it was better. There were new skins designed around the like Kraken gods, which is, I mean, awesome. I do personally love that kind of thing. But of course, that was also pretty heavily tied into, into the battle pass, which means it doesn't really feel like a reward or doesn't feel like an event. It's like marketing to make a purchase. It almost begins to feel more like a banner in a gacha game. Not saying that it is a gacha game. It is like it mechanically is not, but it feels similarly like that, where it's like the new event is just here's a new purchasing occasion.
Yeah,
I mean, it always was that, but at least you had a decent chance if you played diligently of getting some of the new things via the event boxes.
Yeah, I think people, especially people who are working, because you were talking earlier about the potential of fatigue for this, like, I guess, monetization methods. I think a lot of players are getting smarter with that and kind of getting more aware of it overall. So it'll feel more like, oh, you're only willing to put the work in when we're willing to give you the money, despite the fact you're asking us for, generally speaking, quite often a lot of money for not an awful lot of work.
Yeah, because it's 9 weeks is one season. And those can like hold 3 events. Those events have got bundles. The season has a battle pass. Like, just to like reinforce your point, that's a lot of purchase.
It's a lot of purchase, and to some it can be a lot of like content and a lot of reason to play the game. But it's when they're doing things that feel like, oh yeah, well, if you're not going to give us any money, we don't care about you. I think that's the overwhelming problem that people are facing when it goes, oh yeah, remember when your game used to be generous and now it's not generous, which is frustrating because sometimes you can make content and players will go, nah, thanks, I guess, but I'll have to pay for it. So it's like, it's part of the, it's not like, hey, oh, thank you for the content. It is, you've fulfilled your end of the bargain. You've created content for us to pay for. Whereas the events used to feel like, oh, I'm getting a nice bonus time. Obviously, there's the underpinning of this is an event. It's marketing time. We'll get tweets. We'll get headlines. We'll get people to go back into the game.
And loot boxes.
But at least it didn't ask for money a lot of the time, at least not directly. Historically, it also used to be upfronted with, here's a load of free stuff.
It was definitely trying to like edge you into doing the loot box purchases, but you would generally, if you were playing diligently, like near definitely get some stuff, unless you're like extremely unlucky.
Yeah, I think it's to continue the theme of them digging a hole for themselves. They've wanted the heavy monetization market, they've wanted wheels, and they've done not literally gacha tactics, very similar in a whole bunch of ways of just the infinite monetization of loot boxes, the kind of, keep buying. They've used a lot of the same tactics, which means they have the same problem, which is if they're not generous, if they don't have the pipeline to be generous, then they're going to run into the same problems that MiHoYo did every time they didn't give out tons of free gems whenever a Genshin update was happening or when something went wrong. And it's just players going, we're here for the free stuff. If we don't get the free stuff, we'll be angry. That's the culture they've cultivated.
I think what exacerbates this is they have a very aggressive cycle. I think this cycle being aggressive is because they really know like they need to come back with Overwatch. I think that's why they wanted to have those like 9-week seasons, right? It's really a statement of intent to show like, hey, we have a strong plan. Yeah. Look at what we can pull off. But that's probably meant that lots of content is done like obviously ahead of time. It's not like they just shit a season. They don't just make the next season during the season you're in right now, of course. So that does mean that there's only so much room to like redirect the ship. It's not small and nimble. It is a big ship that turns slowly. because they have such a demanding content pipeline. I mean, just the fact that you have to fill all of those season passes with cosmetics while also doing new cosmetics for events, like, that's seriously busy, and they've obviously had to really just squeeze as much out of what they had. And to people, when they feel like they are being squeezed more for money, and also the company are trying to just, reuse as much as they can and be as efficient as they can, it's just not ending up in a fantastic, customer experience. And what's then interesting is that all of this is part of a big old holistic plan, and that's a plan that also includes the Overwatch League being successful. And the Overwatch League makes money via many different ways. Number one, it serves as a bit of, Halo products, maybe not the best term, but it serves to be a big prestige thing, right? Like, Riot probably don't make money off the LCS, but they do make money off people buying skins and being interested in the game, and the LCS helps that out greatly. That's what the Overwatch League is supposed to be like, where they do that. So it's good for the game. They also earn money by franchise buy-ins for every season, which are insane quantities of money. And advertising. Of course, learned how their advertisers ran away, and now we have a situation where the Jacob Wolf report is saying that the majority of Overwatch League teams are about to start a process of collective bargaining and have retained a British law firm. And to go into just what's in his report, and some of these numbers may shock you a bit because they are big industry highs, really shows, like, because Kotick was very bullish on the whole esports thing. Now, is that because he genuinely believes in it, or is it because it's been very obvious to people in the know for a very long time that in esports you seemingly just get to add a zero to things? So the goal for these discussions is for the teams to be awarded some form of economic relief to promote sustainability after each franchise spent somewhere between 7.5 to 10 million in franchise payments over the past 6 years, as well as more than 1 million in operating costs each year to maintain their teams. For some teams, that means they've spent more than $16 million on a league that has lackluster viewership and no profitability in sight. Now, seemingly, the leaders of Toronto Defiant are leading the charge on this. This is broadly in response to the way that Blizzard restructured the league during the pandemic, which was in a way that, like, maybe they had to do it like that, but obviously for franchises who had high buy-in costs, that's an issue. Some buy-ins were like 27 to 35 million reportedly.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you know how people don't care about the Overwatch League in any capacity.
No, who gives a shit?
I don't think it was even mentioned at because I know there's a lot of like the esports stuff at the Game Awards. I didn't see a single mention of Overwatch. Maybe there was and I didn't pay attention. But it's always like, the LCS wins that every year, and I think the LCS is the only time Riot are the only people who can run esports seemingly properly as like a franchise organizer.
Yeah.
Every other instance of it being done well is grassroots led, and it just seems like Activision thought, yeah, we could do a Riot do a bit better, and then just failed in every meaningful capacity and asked for far too much money and ruined all their teams and other players. Cool.
Yeah, because like ultimately, if you set up this financial situation for your teams, like who's going to take the risk? And we've continually had reports of franchise owners who were very sold up on the whole thing by Bobby. Franchise owners being very disappointed with the performance, which does make sense because Overwatch, I mean, come on, look at how it was poised to be a near globally dominant game and how they completely let that slip through their fingers.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, esports stonks are a wee bit down for Activision Blizzard, considering this is going on, which is a massive headache and probably threatens the Overwatch League's existence. Yeah. If these legal fees are high enough or these team owners pull out, no one's going to put a buy-in like that if they see this. So this needs resolved immediately.
Yeah, they maybe need to restructure things. Because like these quantities of money are massive, right? Like when you talk about, say, Project Titan, Blizzard's big, famously failed project. And
70 mil, is it?
70 mil. Now, of course, that is 70 mil of dollars from, like, I don't know, a decade ago. So it would be more in today's money. But, I mean, when you look at the cost of all these franchise buy-ins, like I heard somebody somewhere it be said that like Mass Effect Andromeda cost like in and around 35 million. You compare that to, it's actually getting quite close to some of these franchise teams.
Well, you maybe wouldn't want to make a Mass Effect Andromeda with that money. You might want to make something that does a little bit better than that. But the point is, it's an awful lot of money that could be better done with. And I think it was just Activision Blizzard getting greedy and saying, hey, we promise you this will be profit. Ha, where's our proof? We've we've got some numbers. We've written stuff down. Where'd you get the numbers? We made them up. We made them all up using projections from people we pay to project high numbers. Whoops. But even in other angles, you look at like their Hearthstone esports, which they've just shot in the head not long after, well, a good time period after they've launched Heroes into the Sun. Or like their esports initiatives just seem to be largely failing. I know the World of Warcraft stuff's doing, but it's doing fine, but it's like small enough.
It's always going to be limited, I think, in its growth.
Yeah, it's trying to be for the players and for that audience, as opposed to we're going to make the NFL, but it's going to be video games.
Yeah, and of course in Hearthstone, we recently found out that they are, and maybe we'll talk about this in more depth in a future episode, but they're pulling back to the degree of a lot of people in the Hearthstone scene being just downright pissed. Now, one thing, I think the last bullet in the chamber for them is PvE. That's like, I mean, they can do a really good season or a really good event, but the only thing that can truly make waves is the introduction of PvE in 2023. So on top of talking about us getting back-to-back support heroes coming into the game, PvE is a thing. So Aaron Keller, he didn't want to give anything away in a recent interview with NME, but he did say that Blizzard is still finalizing how the content's going to be rolled out. A chance to tell Overwatch's big overarching narrative is something he's excited about, as he points out it's not something you can really do in the middle of a multiplayer game. We can go into a lot more depth and characters. The universe basically talks up all of that. So basically, Blizzard is still finalizing how the content will be rolled out, which to me is surprising. I really would have assumed that they would have had their plan earlier. Maybe it's the case that they want to be responsive to feedback, in which case potentially good. Now, because they did say that 2023 was, when it would come out, it does mean that Season 3 is the earliest time where that content can come out. And Season 3, I mean, yeah, it's 9 weeks after December 6th, so we're not too far away from it. But that said, if they're still finalizing how it's going to be rolled out, in my opinion, no way in hell we see it in Season 3.
Yep. And there's one thing that I thought was interesting was there was a couple of lore books and storybooks that were announced, and they have, I think it was around September or October time they're releasing. And I saw the Gamer had a headline suggesting that it is a small implication that Overwatch PvE, Overwatch 2 PvE won't be out until the end of the year. And that's obviously like that's a very small implication, if at all.
World of Warcraft Sylvanas.
Yeah, the thing is in World of Warcraft, they do that at the same time quite a lot, where they'll release lore books and stuff that will be, hey, this is going to release after to either take a lot of points that we couldn't fit into the game and solidify them up like they do Sylvanas. There's the other version, which is here's a lead-in.
Yeah.
Here's like a Shadows Rising, which is going to set up some key events for people to pay attention to during an expansion. And then there's the third kind, which is just this can happen whenever, roughly. Yeah. Where it's just like, here's like a fun little book. So and it's hard to know which one each one is, but it could be either before or after. But the problem I want to raise is if that sentiment starts to spread, Overwatch 2 PvE, they said 2023. It is 2023. They haven't said anything. They haven't said anything with Season 3. Then that's going to have players sitting going, when is this? Because I think, and this might just be something I've made up, but I thought a lot of people were expecting it early this year, not late this year. So if some people start to, and this isn't even, it doesn't even have to be fair. It doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be what some people think. Yes. And if some people think PvE is still missing, they haven't said anything. Where is it? And then they Google Overwatch 2 PvE, and the first thing they see is a headline going, these books imply that it may be towards the end of this year if they want to lead in with these books.
And on those books, so Sylvanas was a novel that basically had to come out around the same time as patch 10.2 or 9.2. And with Shadowlands, we essentially got 2 major patches in the room that you'd usually have 3 major patches. And really the big indication that we had fairly early was the Sylvanas book continually being pushed back.
Yeah.
And that was in line with the release date of 9.2. So I think that's, all fairly telling. Overall then, it's just a case of, goddamn, has this not presented issues? I mean, I do wonder, like, sure, was it 20 million was the big number they called out early? So look, sure, I know a lot of people came back to the game. I'm just going to be fascinated to see what happens to those who stick, because I think the people who were the most sticky with Overwatch, they fall into a few categories. I think one of them is the people who generally just love the lore, not that it's massive, but like they like the setting, they like how it feels, they like how the characters feel, and those people used to be very, very driven by collecting the skins and enjoying the events whenever they came around, if the events would have new voice lines or stuff. So those people are not really being treated that well, because this is just a flat downgrade from what they expected. So it's like they're losing those people. And on the competitive side, like Overwatch League lost so much of its really good talent, right? Who, you know, they're, as soon as it seems they were able to get out of their contracts or the contracts expired, like the likes of Monte Cristo, just left to do other things.
Yeah, Activision Blizzard do not manage their talent correctly.
Yeah.
Even as we see with CDL, there losing Scump, the player who retired, and that's one of their biggest assets, and they couldn't hold on to it. They just went, I'll just go solo and do my own streaming because I have the audience. I have the audience, me, not you.
It was a total shit show behind the scenes for the Overwatch League. Like, I have heard that from sources in the industry. You have seen that in reports. A lot of those people are now going on to onto Valorant, right? Just other games. So, man, it's rough. This is all self-inflicted. They could have done the game like this, still had their bundles and stuff, but they could have just been more generous. Yeah, but it seems that like they don't even have the resources. Because if you look at a game like, say, Fortnite, it is fair to say that a new Fortnite season will have skins that you want to get because they're really good. Like, the character customization in Fortnite is really good. Its skins are really good. And even though, you know, I might roll my eyes at flossing or something, but their animators are like, you know, by the principles of animation, they are damn well implemented in Fortnite. So that's the situation with Fortnite, where my experience hopping into it was I don't feel nickel and dimed. I'm having a bunch of fun. Turns out this is a surprisingly good game, of course, for me in no build. I am too crusty and old to build. That is for kids. I don't say that in a disparaging way. I purely mean I see videos of people playing competitive Fortnite with building, and it completely melts my brain.
It's a different way to play.
That's just an example of big free-to-play, seasonal game, but it turns out their skins are just so good that people want to buy them. But this situation in Overwatch is then just hilarious, because it's not even like they're releasing these incredible fire skins and people feel so content and happy with the game experience they're getting for free that they just want to buy the skin anyway. Because I think with skins, you know, it's either a collectathon thing, in which case it needs to be earnable in-game, or it is actualizing on one's desire to deepen themselves into a game that they're enjoying.
That League does well with.
Yeah, because whenever I'm playing League and I'm really enjoying, say, Kai'Sa, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get the skin for that character because I'm really enjoying that character, and I feel like this is a fair return in value. It was even the same in Fortnite. I was like, okay, screw it. I will play Fortnite for a season to see what all the kids have been talking about. Turns out, yeah, fair, really good game. So I decided, fine, I'll, you know, buy one or two cosmetics, do the season thing to just see what, you know, doing a Fortnite feels like. And it feels better than Overwatch 2.
Yeah,
that's it. It's a hyper-competitive arena.
And if you want to be hyper-competitive, you have to have everything right. You can't just have a good game, you have to have a good product.
But wait, what about all the things that Valorant does? You know, you have to buy the characters.
Yep.
You have to buy the skins, blah, blah, blah. And I guess that's where I just have to say, it all comes down to a thing called price anchoring.
Yep.
Right? Like you anchored people's expectations of value in Overwatch 1. So any deviation from that is going to either be seen as better or worse. People will naturally compare. Comparing things and seeing patterns is what our species does. So that's really the rough thing. And then it just seems that in terms of their ability to compete with some other games, they're not quite there yet. Even though I must say that if I fire that game up, I select Baptiste, I will happily play support and have an absolute blast as I become John Halo, because Baptiste is just running around with the BR and it feels great.
Yeah, it's even one of our guild members was saying he's still in Battle Pass hell, but he then very quickly went, it doesn't really feel much like hell anymore, because I can't remember the Ramatra character, I think, and like he actually really enjoys playing that and goes, yeah, I'm literally having fun with Overwatch 2.
Yeah,
it's kind of shitty in the other ways, but it's a fun game, so he plays it. And you're like, yeah, that's what they're doing right. It's just everything else.
What they need to do better, though, and I believe Stylosa did a big old video on this, but there are just issues around competitive, like how it displays rank, the way that that's designed, that I think is not particularly motivating. If they can really nail the ranked experience and kind of just help, because I know that ascending rank in a way could be an extrinsic reward, but really it is just a player, like, you know, it's essentially them playing the mastery loop of the game, which is one of the most like sort of sticky modes of gameplay, I think, for a game. I think they just need to make that a bit, you know, a bit better and fix it up. But overall, that is our situation. We have rough days for the esports of this game, rough days for the esports of Hearthstone, and content-wise, yeah, game's free to play. The events are worse. People feel bad. There you go.
And that,
I hope you enjoyed my incredible analysis.
yeah, bad feelings outweigh good feelings, and you can't have bad feelings in your game. That's what they need to learn.
That's it.
That's what the World of Warcraft team learned.
They learned it well. Simple as. So that's the situation. If you'd like to help us out, check out our game. You actually go and play The Pale Beyond. Our demo is between an hour and a half and 3 hours, depending on
how fast you read.
basically some of how fast you read, some of like if you really want to do all the exploring and stuff.
Yeah, if you take time, it depends on how much you stare at a decision, going, shit, which of these do I do?
Yeah. The sort of like big old game mechanic side of things, that does actually kick in kind of like, you know, after the prologue, which the prologue, which is like 2 hours, is the demo. But anyway, you can check out our new trailer and wishlist the game. We just crested 75,000 wish lists.
Hell yeah.
So in my head, I almost want to say we have a month to get 100,000.
75 sales. Let's go.
Yeah. So hey, help us on our way to 100,000 if you are interested in playing the game.
Yes,
and a narrative-driven sort of survival role-playing game adventure.
Yeah, or as, what was it, Rock, Paper, Shark called it? Frostpunk at Sea, I think.
Frostpunk 'em up at sea.
Frostpunk 'em up at sea, yeah.
I will say, mechanically, like, we do have resources. Yep. You do have to manage your resources, or bad things will happen to people. If you like the vibe and the tone and the decision-making of Frostpunk, I think there's a lot of crossover with our game. Obviously, though, we are not a city builder.
Yeah, and also talking about Blizzard making good games with bad experiences, any bad experiences in The Pale Beyond are very much intended. You'll know what I mean.
I'm assuming you mean like whenever the story is pretty much like you're going to have to make a choice here, and it's going to be oof.
That's what I mean, yes.
Yeah, we do try to make things feel pretty fucking authentic, which does mean, yeah, we'll go places. Or, yeah, we're going to go places. Anyway, check it out. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Check out this video on Blizzard China and all that crazy situation. Until then, we'll see you.